I think a lot of people don't appreciate the inner strength, like being patient, being kind, you know, because it takes a lot from people to do that sometimes, you know, because a lot of people think like, oh no, like being kind is being weak, or being nice is being weak. But it actually takes a lot of strength to love your neighbor who
It
you really
does.
hate, you know? Welcome back to our podcast. This is Out of the Box podcast, where Steele and I, your host, get to talk about out of the box ideas. Today, we're going to be talking about what it means to be a man, how to become a man in this modern world, and just different ideas from different sides so that we can really see what that means and what are the essentials to becoming a man. So before we actually get started, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to our channel because our commitment to continue providing amazing content will continue forever. And so we're excited to share this podcast here today. So Steele, just to start off, I wanted to ask you, what are some things, generic things, I would say that, or like more uh, like day-to-day things that you've heard of what it means to become a man?
Oh, all sorts of things. I guess growing up, I could start with that. So, I guess growing up, I don't know if it was really explicit. I think it was more implicit, actually. Like maybe
Hmm.
things about like men don't show as many emotions, maybe, or like tough it up. I don't ever really, maybe a few times, but I don't know if I was ever really explicitly told that, like, hey, don't show emotions because men don't show emotions. I was never like told that, but maybe like implied in different ways. And
Yeah.
in the media growing up, maybe. Of course, a lot of that's changing now too. But I think also, and well, actually, just going based off my whole life up until now, I could say off the top of my head, like just trying to be independent and trying to be able to support yourself on your own
Hmm.
and to eventually be able to support a family and to be, to be honest, to own up to your mistakes, to apologize when you're wrong and not cower away and run away from problems, but to face them and not to run away from necessary confrontation. And I say
Hmm.
necessary because sometimes there's unnecessary confrontation that can turn what someone,
That you can be avoided. Yeah.
yeah, like, like sometimes that's being a man in the sense of almost not being a man because it's like it depends on what you associate with being a man, or what it is to be a man, right? So, like, there could be a lot of negative things associated with that too, like too much, like the stereotypes, like aggressive, uh, I don't know, like,
Strong.
yeah, or like unnecessary aggression, unnecessary confrontation. So like that's why I want to differentiate between necessary confrontation.
Hmm.
It's justified, but then there can be unjustified confrontation where you're just doing it for the sake of being a tough man or
Yeah.
doing it for the wrong reasons, doing it to show off. I feel like at that point you're pretending to be a man, but to me, like I don't know, like, and it's really kind of interpretive, but to
Hmm.
me, being a real man is like you don't do that. You don't do stupid stuff like confronting people just to show off, like it's almost
Yeah.
not really
It's
good.
almost like inciting a fight whenever it could have been solved just by talking.
It's almost immature because usually, we want to say that to be a man is to be mature, and it would be immature to just start confrontations and fights for no reason, just to show off or just because I don't know, you want to be tough or whatever. But
And I think like at that point, it really comes from like a personal wound of the person, right? That they might just be like you said, it comes off as immature, but I would definitely see it in middle school is when like, like as guys, we're trying to figure out like we're hitting puberty and like we're trying to figure out what it really means to like be, a man, almost, and it's, I would always see like fights break off and,
oh yeah,
people just like, they're like, hey, meet me in the restroom kind of deal. Like, let's fight it out. almost to say like that's gonna solve the problem, and whoever wins in this fight is, the better man. And I think like historically, and maybe like our ancestors did fight for
Oh yeah, no doubt.
to win certain arguments, right? Yeah, but I think like our society has grown to become more of a communication uh, battle rather than like fist battle,
Yeah, it's
right?
really evolved.
So I think like being able to articulate yourself and be logical and also be able to fight verbally, I think is the new way of fighting for oneself, like standing up for oneself, I would say. Rather, of course, like fist fights and stuff like that sometimes happen, but I think that for the modern, it sounds weird to say modern man, for the modern man, but for like man nowadays, I think there's more strength in resisting that. Like you said, I think there's a good point in saying not resisting unnecessary aggression, whether it be physical or verbal. But I think that's when it comes to like where, if you don't do something, they're gonna like kill some of your loved ones, or they're gonna hurt them or something like that. And so I think that might be like where unnecessary, like standing up when it's necessary,
Justified. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's justified by like, okay, well, if I don't take action, if I just become indifferent to the situation, then it could lead to these other things.
Yeah, so ironically, that would actually lead to maybe some definitions people would say is not being a man, is not standing up and not in that situation where
Mm,
you need to
yeah.
protect your family, but you're not able, you run away. Then people would say that's not being a man. That's the opposite.
Yeah,
So
it's almost like I think also I think it goes to show like that's responsibility,
yeah,
right? Like not being there and not standing up. It's like you're not being responsible for the ones you're taking care of, right? Because it's almost like an implied responsibility when one has a kid, when one has a dog, when one has, you know, a wife to like have a family with, kind of deal.
mhm.
Um, and so I think it's really interesting, honestly, like that aspect of responsibility, because nowadays, a lot of people just say like, hey, and it happens, unfortunately, like a lot of people have kids with someone, and then they just happen to leave the picture just because they don't have the commitment to really like stand up for what they've done, right? Like being accountable to to what you've done, whether it be a good decision or bad decision, like being accountable and saying like, yes, like I did this decision, like I messed up or I did good, but I made the decision, so I choose to like own up to it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Admitting when you're wrong.
hmm
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's almost like I want to say like I think a lot of people don't appreciate the inner strength, like being patient, being kind, because it takes a lot from people to do that sometimes, you know, because a lot of people think like, oh no, like being kind is being weak, or being nice is being weak. But it actually takes a lot of strength to love your neighbor who
it
you
does.
really hate. And I think that shows a lot of strength in a person too,
I think I agree,
right?
actually.
It's almost like being the bigger person in the picture, saying like, okay, like, because you think about it, I like to read a little bit about the saints, but these people who, like, for example, John Paul II, he was shot by, oh, I think twice or three times, and he went to forgive the person that had shot him, right? He went to forgive
Yeah,
them.
that was
And
pretty.
it's almost like saying like, well, like,
Yeah,
why is this person like, so weak? Like some people might see it as like, oh, this person's weak, like, but it took so much strength from him to say like, man, somebody shot me, and I'm gonna go to them and forgive them.
Yeah, so
It's
does that,
like,
is that almost,
wow.
yeah, so it's almost like that's being stronger.
Yeah.
Forgiving someone for a horrible thing they did to you is actually being stronger. Like what they would comment saying, being the better man.
Yeah.
'Cause you are, but because it is hard. I mean, think about how hard that is psychologically on someone to do, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost like why we have to ask deeper questions. Why do we
Mm.
not want to forgive? Why would the Pope or some other person right now want to forgive someone for shooting them or doing something
Yeah.
wrong to them? Is it because of the fear? Is it because of insecurity, immaturity, the pain, the emotional pain, not being able to overcome that? Because a lot of times, emotional pain is what stops people from forgiving someone. And in a sense, you can interpret that as kind of a weakness almost.
Yeah.
And the opposite of weakness is strength. So to forgive someone and look past the emotional pain that you're feeling and to just overcome it is strength. So if
Yeah. It's
forgiving,
almost like a flow of things, right?
yeah,
Like like a person, and this I guess goes a little bit more for both genders, like for both men and women. But for a person to not forgive someone, it's almost like holding that in, right? But to be in, like, I'm just gonna say, the state of flow of like allowing things to almost like come and go. I think it frees up a lot of energy to be able to focus on what's really important, right? Because it's very draining to repress emotions and very draining to hold on to things that have happened in the past, right? Not forgiving is chaining up a lot of things. And I think to really, be a man or a woman who is able to be free in the world, it's to really let go of that, those things. And I think also a lot of people choose to not forgive because they think that, like, they hold the key to say, like, oh no, like, I they want to have some sort of power in the situation, right? It's almost like, I don't know if you remember, but one of our friends one time, like, you went to ask for forgiveness for having done something, right? And then they started bashing at you, right? They started bashing at you, and I don't want to say names, but they started bashing at you, saying like, "Hey, like, you should have done this or that. Like, you hurt me a lot." And it's almost like, like, from your part, like, you let it go, like, you try to redeem the situation, the relationship, which in your part was being a man, and asking for forgiveness too. Not only forgiving, but asking for forgiveness. I think it's both sides. But the other person didn't act as a man themselves because they just allowed the emotions to just, carry them, when you just wanted to just, man the situation. The big part of the other person would have been, saying like, okay, like, no, still, like, I forgive you, like, instead of like reprimanding you, kind of deal, like saying like, no, still, you hurt me, this and that. And so I think that that's part of like becoming a man, right? Like,
yeah,
being sometimes like, not saying like don't show emotion, but being unattached to like sometimes like certain outcomes, like being in a state of like flow, like, like, hey, and also being honest to one's emotions too, like, hey, I feel like I need to forgive this person, I'm gonna go do that. So it's almost like, and I've talked to women about this, and a lot of women have told me that it's very attractive when a man like really does what they want, like what they feel like doing sometimes. Not feel like doing, like, oh, I'm gonna like just hook up with girls, but they feel attracted to men who like say like, hey, I want to forgive this person, and they do it. Or I want to, go volunteer, and they do it. Or, or whenever they see like somebody who has a plan and they go and accomplish it. It's almost like what Jordan Peterson says about like fighting the dark side, like wrestling with
yeah.
with monsters,
I'm glad.
and growing teeth.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm really glad you brought that up because wrestling with monsters, man, that really makes me think. Well, a variety of things, not just aggression, not just like wrestling with violence or whether to forgive someone. But like I've even heard people say like, well, to be a real man, you got to lose your virginity like as soon as possible, or you know what I mean, or like as if that's the key to being a true man, I guess. And or not only that, but like sleeping with like a ton of women, right? Like sleeping with 100 women is what makes you a
Mm,
man, right? That I guess that's what I'm getting at. Obviously, because I mean, marriage is a whole different thing, right? I mean, I guess what I mean is like just one night stands, right? That kind of thing. Just no commitment, no
yeah.
strings attached or anything like that. Which, hey, do what you want to do. I'm not talking to you, audience. I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just saying. I heard some people say that's the key to being a man, but I'm just questioning philosophically, like, is that really the key to being a man, though? Like, why do we believe
Yeah.
that? And is that really true? Just because a group of people says it's true, as we found as we talk philosophically about all kinds of things on this podcast, does that really mean it's true though? I mean, is it
Well,
really
I guess we can put it we can put it through filters, right? What it means to be a man. Like, is there commitment when you're like hooking up with someone? No, it's just like, hey, let's do it. There's no commitment. We'll use a condom or whatever. You know. Secondly, is there responsibility in the act, right? And then, are you caring for the best interest of the other person? And we could keep going on, like putting
yeah,
different filters, and
yeah,
we can see
responsibility.
like, is this action really like what it calling you to be a
And are
bigger
you
person,
leaving? Are you leaving
a
the
better
woman?
man?
Yeah, are you leaving the woman behind with to take care of the child by herself? Are you abandoning her?
Hmm.
That makes someone a real,
Yeah.
or is the better man the one who actually stays with her and takes responsibility for what they did to make her have a baby?
Yeah.
Because I've heard both sides. I've heard some sides say, yeah, sex with a bunch of different women, that's where a real man is. But then hear other people say on the other side, no, that's not being a real man. A real man is someone who commits to one woman. And when he's married, he doesn't like look at other women all the time. And he's not always thinking about an affair, or he's not, he can, like, he might catch himself looking at a woman who walks by, but he doesn't like keep looking, because he's in a dedicated relationship with his wife. And I've heard that side
Yeah.
argue that a real man has the strength, like we're talking about. They don't fall into the weakness of giving into all of that other stuff, right?
Yeah. I've heard a quote that's really cool, and and I think it applies to this. It goes like this. It says that, a person, you know, uh, let me step back a little bit. A lot of a lot of things may catch your eye, but not all things may catch your heart,
uh,
right? And so it's knowing the difference, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe, because we're all attracted to beauty and truth, right? And so beauty can sometimes lead to truth. And so it's okay, like, you see a beautiful woman, it's like, wow, but
right,
it's not saying like she doesn't have my heart. She just, like a lot of things may catch your eye, but they not all have to catch your heart. And knowing how to balance things, I think that's for human beings, not just men but human beings, like knowing the balance of things is really important, because I think this word of balance has a lot to say in this conversation, because it's understanding the balance also of the feminine and masculine energy, right? Because a lot of people nowadays say like, oh, masculine and feminine, no, they're the same. They should be the same. And I think how we care sometimes about each other, yes, maybe, but they are completely different, right? Like they say women are from Venus and like guys are from Mars, or men are from Mars, or something like that. Like we are completely different, but it's for a reason, right? Like we have woman and we have man for a reason, right? And each one provides different energies, right? The woman has the feminine energy, the man has the masculine energy, and with these energies they create a balance, right? Which this balance forms, stability. right? And I think that's what balance is, when, like, let's say for people who are like working on their core, right? They work out their core, it's so that they have a better balance, right? And so balance, it's almost like hand in hand with stability, right? And so when we have a good balance, we have stability. And why do we need stability? To grow things on top of it, right? Or to have things come into one's life. And so I think that's really it's a really interesting aspect, because I've been talking to a friend about like marriage and relationships, right? And I think it's really interesting because how to be a man is understood by sometimes knowing the other gender, right? Because we understand, oh wow, like the woman and the man complement each other in a way, right? And so by seeing the woman and what her lacks are, we can sometimes see what our strengths are, right? And we can see like how we can balance and kind of work together as a team to build stability and build families, or build a house together, kind
Compliment.
of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to be a man, it's sometimes almost really weirdly inherently uh described by woman as well. You know, it's like you cannot understand one without the other, kind of deal.
Well, like morality, good and evil. Nice.
Yes, yes,
But
yeah.
yeah, opposites. I mean, yeah,
Opposites help understand the opposite side.
yeah, positive.
Like, like what really is
Yeah,
hot and cold, truth
yeah,
and falseness.
yeah. So for what is fact compared to fiction, what is truth without falsehood? What is positive without negative? And for what is good without evil?
Mm,
You know?
yeah, and I think um in
Yeah,
Asian cultures, they have the yin yang. Yeah.
yeah, they do.
Like I think I'm not sure if it is a practice, but I saw it in the movie Mulan. I don't want to generalize it and stereotype it, but it's interesting how in the movie the man gives, one side of the yin yang symbol, and he keeps the other part, right? Almost to say that, there is the masculine and feminine energy,
Everyone is similar.
which together form the signal of balance. And I think that's such an interesting topic. I mean, I just thought of it from the top of my head, but it does represent
It is.
itself
It's funny.
in culture.
It's funny because Walter Russell talks about it. People look up Walter Russell online, whoever doesn't know. But yeah, he a lot of his theories and philosophy is about how everything's the opposite and how the universe is made of opposites. You know,
Mm,
and it's interesting. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that's my final ideas on that one. I mean that's some good stuff, man.
yeah. I think we can leave it off here so we can expand on it in the future a little bit more. But any final thoughts?
Um, I just think that there are opposites in the universe. I'm not talking about anything specific by saying that. I just mean like in general, like there's so many opposites of so many different things. The physics laws of physics, the way math works. I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that you could apply it to morality.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, it's about
yeah, yeah. I would say there's so many like different filters that really make up a man, but to really be a man is is sometimes really, like you said, described by understanding what it means to be a woman, and vice versa. It's almost like both of them have to be like hand in hand to understand what each other are, right? And it's almost like how we really understand who we are ourselves. Like we talk to our family, we talk to our friends, and they themselves like, give feedback on who we are. But I think I identity wise, to be a man uh can only be understood by knowing what really a woman is too, right? And I think the balance between each other helps clarify what one and the other should do, right? And I think a lot of people bash nowadays like the gender roles, and like the wife should stay at home and stuff like that. But inherently, like in biologically, we have just been created a certain way. Our bodies have evolved a certain way to really provide balance for each other, right? And so it's not like women are less or men are less. It's almost like that song that it goes like, this is a man's world. Like it's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman, right? And
Great,
so
man.
it's understanding that, right?
But
And I'm not saying that, like supporting that specifically, but it's really going to that there's differences, and to be a man can sometimes be understood by knowing what a woman is,
yeah, you're saying
right? And so it's
different.
not degrading them,
Yeah,
and it's not saying one is more than the other, but saying that both have certain roles to
yeah, yeah.
play in life.
Yeah, you're saying there's differences between men and women. Why should we see that as a negative thing? And why should we
Yes.
and why should we that comes to interpretation, right? Like we talked about in the other thing. It's like you can choose to interpret women's characteristics as negative if you want to, but you don't have to. If you want to go along with the stereotype, well, I mean, even stereotypes, you can choose, you can interpret them negatively. Like for example, let's take the stereotype of a housewife, a woman who stays at home to care for her children and keep the house clean and cook and stuff like that and provide for the husband in that way. Well, some people would say, well, that's a negative thing. That's making her less than a man. That's making her weak. Uh, your society and your beliefs are saying that women are weak because of that. But it's like, is that weak though? Because she's working really hard, man. Like she's working hard every day, like of the week.
Yeah.
She doesn't get off. I mean, she gets off work, right? But I mean, she has breaks, obviously, but she's still like working really hard to do chores around the house, to keep the house maintained, to keep the kids well behaved, to teach them right from wrong, all of that stuff, take them to school, help them with their home,
That's
all of that.
and a lot of people can say like,
What's negative about that?
yeah,
How's
and a
that
lot of
weak?
people can see like that's a negative thing, but it's like, well, what is it really? And that's why I'm saying, like, one cannot not understand what it means to be a man without the woman, and vice versa,
Yeah.
right? because
What's weak?
because like that in itself, like the example that you gave of like housewives,
Mm.
you know why is that wrong? Like, why do people see it as wrong?
They
Like,
see it, they want to say it, interpret it as a weakness, but my argument, at least in this example, is
basically saying that they can't be independent,
I just
kind of
don't think
deal.
I don't think it's a weakness though. And I think a woman can still be independent and choose that lifestyle because there's actually
Mm.
some women who want,
Oh,
there's nothing wrong with a woman who wants to do that. If she wants that for her life, a woman, if she wants a career, good. If she wants to be a housewife, good. What's wrong with either? Just let her choose what she wants to do is my thing. Either way,
yeah,
like we have life choices. And
yeah. I think we'll leave it at that.
yeah, it comes down to
That's a good break off point. But thank you guys for watching again. We really appreciate your time, and let us know what you thought about this podcast. We would be really interested in hearing your comments. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.